Hello everyone, I am Tin Tim. That's T-I-N as in never turn your back. T-I-M as in maybe you should watch your step. I am America's first drag queen public intellectual, aka the Cornell motherfucking West of drag, coming to you each week with my thoughts on the most recent episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, Season 5. I am on my way to a Eyes Wide Shut themed party, thus the whew. Each season there is one challenge where it feels like the judges are perhaps not all on the same page with what the criteria are for what they're looking to see. I always call it like the WTF challenge. You know, this season it was this challenge. I thought last season it was the presidential debate challenge where it seemed like Dan Savage wanted something much more serious than the other judges and really wanted to see the Queens hammer home on issues. In season 3 it was the weird Americana videos for the troops episode, and it's usually a tension between are these supposed to be funny or are they supposed to be very serious. And I thought in this episode it seemed like Aubrey O'Day was taking the challenge very seriously, and then the other judges were appreciating things she wasn't appreciating. And it was kind of like unclear, you know, what exactly it was supposed to be or what they were looking for, kind of what balance of or what blend of comedy and serious, right? That said, I really enjoyed this. They did a celebrity fragrance, celebrity perfume episode of America's Next Top Model during the All-Star season, and it was one of my favorite episodes. I just think that it is such a blatantly commercial, blatantly crass kind of marketing and branding oriented challenge, and there's just something so self-indulgent to saying, you know, America, I am such a celebrity, I am so famous and so fabulous that you want to smell like me. And, you know, I just think that's ripe to be kind of teased or satired a bit by drag queens, so I definitely enjoyed it. I think most of what I wanted to talk about related to this episode happened during the Untucked, specifically that very uncomfortable disagreement between Coco and Jinx. Going into this season, I said that one thing I was very worried about was that they would sort of stoke this conflict or tension between the kind of like either campy or freak or funny queens on one side and the pageant queens on the other. And ta-da! What I dislike about this is, one, that it makes it seem like there's only two kinds of drag, like you're this or you're this, when obviously, as we know because we watch the show, the drag world is much more diverse than that, and there's many styles, many kinds, many types, so that sort of dichotomy, binary, what have you, between just those two styles sort of, I just think, way oversimplifies and leaves all these things out of the picture. The second thing that I dislike is that it makes it seem like these two aesthetics or two styles are like irreconcilable somehow, or that they have nothing to learn from each other. Whereas, you know, obviously I maybe align myself a little bit more with like the freak side of things. Hello! But I've actually, at points, really enjoyed watching some of the pageant queens this season. I have come to appreciate in a different way the way that pageant training and the skill set that you have to develop to compete in those pageants kind of can, not in every situation, but can prepare you to be very sort of resourceful, to adapt yourself to a lot of different kinds of challenges, whether they're, you know, in your skill set, in your skill level or not. You kind of always present yourself well because of that pageant training. Just watching Coco and Alyssa on the runway and Roxy, they all just kind of have this presentation and this grace that I think comes at least in part from the pageant training. All of these worlds have something to contribute and you know, something to share with each other, so I don't like the dichotomy between them. But all that said, what I really don't get is this thing coming from Coco about, you know, this frustration with people being judged differently or not all being judged along the same level or the same standard, the same way, whatever that is. We've seen that argument in other seasons from other pageant girls. You know, we saw it a lot from Alexis Mateo in season 3. You know, just this whole sort of frustration or this assumption that somehow there ought to be some kind of objective criteria against which all the queens are judged in the same way or judged equally. It's just a very confusing idea to me because obviously drag is an art form, very subjective, and, you know, like Jinx said, like a lot of the other queens have said, what works really well for one person and one person's character, one person's art, is not going to work for another, and they all they all should be judged against themselves and their own potential and their own thing that they're doing. I find it really hard to believe is that I know in a pageant setting, you know, obviously it's the type of competition where people are being scored along a certain kind of ideal. But that said, it's just impossible for me to believe that there isn't some level of subjectivity in pageant judging. It's like, I've watched Toddlers and Tiaras. I know it's, you know, random what any particular set of judges is looking for. So the fact that they all seem to think that there's this standard is just very confusing to me. And I also always wonder, it's like what did you think you were coming into on this show? Or what do you think America's Next Drag Superstar means? Because to me, it's very obvious that, you know, in the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent kind of construct, the CUNT, the uniqueness is like obviously a very key piece of that. If you're going to be a mega celebrity, loved and adored by fans, you can't be like every other drag queen who's a 10. You've got to be the 10 that only you can be, like the thing that only you can be that's very distinctive. So it's always very strange and very curious to me when they come in being like, what's the objective standard for me to reach? I really don't get it, and I don't. I think that is all I have for you this week, because the show will not be on next Monday. I don't know if I'll make a video about something else next week or not, or if not, I look forward to checking in with you all again in 2 weeks. Much love. Mwah.